Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Newman, and I am a body mind coach and licensed massage therapist. And I'm coming to you today because I wanted to talk a little bit about surrender. And if any of you have seen any of my posts, I'm a nature lover. So typically, I get my inspiration from when I'm walking my dogs. And this is the season, right? The season of fall when things are getting colder and the leaves are falling off the trees. And well, taking up the taking care of all the leaves, well, that's another thing altogether, right? But nature, right? The trees are surrendering. The trees are letting go of their leaves. They're letting them all fall to the ground. They're surrendering. They're surrendering to the cold, to the season, right? And what they're doing is by surrendering up their leaves, they no longer have to feed that outside source, right? Those leaves were no longer getting chlorophyll. Those leaves were no longer getting fed. And instead, the tree is going within and it's keeping those nutrients for itself. So I just think that that's a really apropos like cliche, right? Or not a cliche, but a synonym of what this time of year does for us, right? So, in this time of year, we're thinking about holidays. There's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas, there's worries about Christmas shopping, there's worries about making food and having all the things that people want, and all those things that come into play. And whew, like just thinking about that, like if I were to look at my life to go back, gosh, probably 7, 8 years ago, I was in the thick of it, right? Like I was not going to surrender because for me, the word surrender meant that I was giving up, right? In my ego mind, it meant that I was giving up if I surrendered. And so I fought the battle, right? Like I was responsible for buying all the gifts for my family and my spouse's family. I was responsible for all the meals. I was responsible for all the things getting right. The one thing that I didn't have to do was write the cards. Amen, right? That was the furthest thing. But I was responsible. And the thing is, I said, okay. Like, I didn't see any other way. I refused to surrender. I refused to see that there would have been another way to go about this. I felt the pressure from outside that I had to do this. And if I didn't do this, then I was failing. I was surrendering. I was giving up. Well, what if, right? Surrender in our ego mind means to give up. But to the spiritual mind, surrender means giving and receiving. So, what would that look like for you if during this time of year, with the holidays, with all the hustle and bustle that's happening, on top of everything else that you're doing, what would happen if you surrendered? And I mean that word surrender in such a loving way where you allow yourself, like the trees, right, to no longer give out, but to give in to you, to receive. What would that look like? How would that change up your holiday season? How would that change up your stress level? Another quote that we have is uh, to surrender in this moment, not to a story through which you interpret this moment. Then try to resign yourself to it, right? So we have a story. We have a story. Well, if I surrender, if I give up, then I'm not a good mom. I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good daughter. I mean, right? The list could go on and on and on. Or I'm not a good parent. I'm not a good husband, right? But what if we change that story? What if I surrender, if my ego says I don't have to be in control, if it says I need to ask for help, what does that do? That allows me to receive. That allows me to not feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. Come on, y'all. You know what I'm talking about. Are you walking around with your shoulders up to your ears? Don't forget, I'm also a licensed massage therapist. I see this every day, especially with the holidays. Our ears start to creep up, our shoulders start to creep up to our ears, and we forget what that feels like to not have that. And typically that is carrying the burden of the world on your shoulders when you don't have to. You can surrender so that you can receive. But then there's like that little trick in there. You're like, oh, well, that sounds great, Vicki. I'd love to receive, but how do I do that? We have to we have to stop believing that people can read our minds, right? I know, like if you have a spouse or a partner, right? Like sometimes we just love for them to know like what we want them to do without having to say it, right? Like we're sick of asking for them to do blah, 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 whatever it is, right? Sick of saying, can you please do the dishes? Or can you please take out the garbage? Or I don't know, whatever that looks like, right? But you know what? Sometimes by simply asking for help, saying, it would really be great if you could help me with, can we go shopping together? I would really love to be able to spread that. Or maybe let's divide it. I'll do this. Can you do this? And then we'll meet in the middle somewhere. Instead of feeling like you have to do it all, instead of feeling like it's all your responsibility. Because there's two things that happen, right? When you ask for help, when you surrender and say, I can't do this, right? And if we're talking in a spiritual sense, like if you just say, can't do this anymore, right? That higher spiritual God, whatever that is for you, right? He's got us. But in the physical means of our family, right? I can't do this. I need help. Asking for help is not a weakness, people. I know I used to think it was forever. Forever. I was brought up, don't let them see you sweat. And that phrase for me meant I can't let anybody know, oh shit, I don't know what the hell to do right now. I need to figure it out. So I need to work harder to be on my A game so that I know what the hell I'm doing. Giving up, surrendering wasn't an option for me. I never felt that that was an option because that showed a weakness and I didn't want to be weak. And then crazy thing happened. I basically got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. Like I was physically sick. And I had to surrender. I had to ask for help. And I had to change up how I was doing things. And yes, did it suck? Sure. At the time, it was really scary because I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what it looked like. But there was a gift on the other end of that. Once I surrendered, once I asked for help, I was able to receive. Once I was able to put into words what I needed and receive that, I was able to grow far more than I was when I was trying to do it all. So, getting back to trees and them surrendering their leaves during this time of season, right, in the holiday. Are you the tree that's still trying to hold on to their leaves with the cold and the winds and everything just being thrown at you? How's that working for you? Like honestly, maybe you say, you know what, Vicki, I got this. I'm doing okay. And I'm going to ask you, really? Are you really okay? It's okay if you're not. It is so okay if you're not. I've been there. I've done this time and time again. So, what if you changed up how you do things and you surrendered so that you could receive the nurturing and support that you need? And sometimes that's just saying, I can't do this. I need help. And that could be on so many different levels, right? This just doesn't have to be about holidays. It could be life. Life is too much. So ask for help. All right, like I said, my name is Victoria Newman. I'm a licensed massage therapist and body mind coach, life coach. And I help people siphon through this stuff that is really hard sometimes because the problem is so big, right? That it's hard to break it down into pieces. Like, so I give the example, like, I don't know how many of you have had to mow leaves, have had to rake leaves. But so my husband and I have two different methods. Okay. My method is I don't wait till the leaves are off the ground or on the ground, rather. I do them in small batches and I try to rake when I know that the leaves aren't heavy. So hopefully on drier days. So I rake. And so I'll admit I've raked like 4 or 5 times and I am so sick of raking. So sick of raking. But for me, it is easier for me to rake in small batches to get to my end point. And that's okay. For my husband, he would tell you, why are you raking? There's still trees on the leaf. That's not efficient. You're just doing this over and over and over again. He's an engineer, right? Like that's how his brain works. I get it. And I want to be efficient, but I also want to have it in small, bite size steps that I can manage and that I can do. Because for me, if I were to wait till all the leaves came down, oh crap, that's a whole heck of a lot of leaves. And they're heavy and they're wet. And then what if it snows? Oh, right? Right? But for him, he'd rather wait till they're all down. And then he will expend the energy and the time to pull them all together, put them on a tarp, and get them out of the yard. There's not a right way or a wrong way, right? It might not be the way that seems right in our head, but who are we to judge, right? I help you break things down into smaller pieces so that it's not this huge thing that seems impossible. There's always an opportunity, no matter at what point you are, big or small, to incorporate small steps to get to huge change, huge, big change. And so, no matter where you are in the process, if you're in where you have lots of little small piles that you need to deal with, or if you have this one huge, honkin' huge pile that you just don't know where to start, if it's holding you up from your progress from where you want to be, I can help. It's about taking small steps, people, to get to big change. I'd love to talk to you about it. You can go to my website, victoriacarrierlmt.org. Or you can go to Coaching and Bodywork by Vicky.com. Sign up for a discovery call. Let's talk. If you're in the season to just surrender and start receiving, I would love to help you in that process. I hope you're all having a great day. Be well, stay warm, and let's not give up. Let's start receiving. Take care.